As the 1-year mark approached since their family members were taken hostage, they protested outside the Israeli Prime Minister's house, calling for an end to the war and a deal to bring their loved ones home.
We won't stop reminding this bad government that saving life is more important than the war.
As the government expands the war to a new front, they reminded the world that dozens of people were still in Hamas captivity since they were taken on October 7th, 2023. Around 240 hostages, 214 of them alive, men, women, children, and even babies, Hamas's bargaining chip, and a human shield against Israel. After 14 days in captivity, Judith Tyranan and her daughter Natalie Shoshana were the first hostages to be released by Hamas, officially for humanitarian reasons. 4 days later, 2 other captives were released for the same reason. On the 27th of October, Israel began its ground offensive on Gaza. 2 days later, the Israeli army rescued its first hostage, 19-year-old soldier Ori Megidish, acting on specific intelligence of her whereabouts. Demonstrations in Israel began in mid-November, demanding the hostages' return. Meanwhile, the Israeli army recovered the lifeless bodies of 2 of them from Gaza. Later that month, a march set off from Jaffa to Jerusalem, calling for action from the Israeli government.
7 of my family members are kidnapped in Gaza. We need them back now at any price.
At the end of November, during the first and only truce of the war so far, 105 hostages were freed. The year ended with a blunder. The Israeli army admitted having mistakenly killed 3 hostages who were waving for help, provoking public anger. Between February and June 2024, 6 captives were freed in Rafah and Nusayra. In March, the United Nations claimed to have received convincing information about sexual violence committed against several hostages. On August 27th, the Israeli army announced having rescued Qaid Farhan al-Qadi from Gaza, a Bedouin from the Negev. Days later, the bodies of 6 hostages were found.
My sweet boy, finally, you're free!
In the aftermath, hundreds of thousands of people marched against the government. According to official Israeli figures, 64 hostages are still alive in Gaza to date, but that is probably an overestimate. According to Israeli media, Benjamin Netanyahu told a closed parliamentary committee on September 22nd that he believes the likely number is about 50.